Can you guys hear me? Sorry, hold on.
32 super fans.
I couldn't understand a word they were saying.
One PodVader.
You fired up for that, man? Huh?
Every angle of the NFL covered.
We on go time. We still on go.
This is Next Fan Up.
We're live, bro.
Hello and welcome to his podcast doesn't get any listens, so it doesn't matter if your child starts crying edition of the Next Fan Up podcast. Hello, everybody. Jason Soderbergh, PodVader here, along with co-host Eagles James. Hello, James. How are you?
It's been a long day. It's been a trying weekend, and yet another year I am robbed of my Super Bowl IV rematch.
Yeah, well, that's a shame. But we're going to get into a lot of the good sounds here from coaches and players from championship weekend. We will also hear from the coaches that have new jobs. Got a lot of that good sound. So we're going to talk about some of those guys. Still a couple of coaches that haven't had their press conferences yet. Like Nick Sirianni, is that his name?
Yep,
that was breaking news on the
Philly.
Thursday podcast. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't had his press conference yet, but when he does, we will find him and we'll play his sound because that's what we do.
I'm pretty sure it will happen after they fill out the staff, which they're still doing.
That's what we do here on the Soundoff edition of the podcast. What do you think, James? Should we go chronologically here? Seems to make the most sense.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, let's start with the winners, because why would you start with the losers? Winners write the history. So we'll start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach, Bruce Arians, whose team, my son was trying to make an argument. Are they the first team ever to win 3 straight road games? I was like, no, son, they're not the first. There's been plenty of other teams that have done it, but they are the first team to now host the Super Bowl in their stadium. And Bruce was asked about that.
Bruce, you just knocked off 3 division champions on the road. What does that say about the mental toughness of your squad?
Yeah, that's the scary thing about coming to the Super Bowl at home. We've been playing so good on the road. And this was fun because we had loud fans. And, man, this was football for the first time this year for me. I mean, the fans were great here, and what an unbelievable atmosphere. But to be able to come home to play the Super Bowl at our place and not have to get on a plane and do all the things that this crazy year that has us doing, it would be weird. It would not even feel like the Super Bowl when we don't have all those damn press conferences.
All right, there's so many. He hit so many things in that soundbite. First, scared to play at home because he's beaten 3 division champions on the road. That's the first part, which is just funny. And he was laughing. You could tell he was saying that
tongue in cheek.
But the next thing does bring up an interesting point. We still have a week off between this championship game and the Super Bowl. And there's clearly not going to be the whole rigmarole craziness. I don't believe there's a press conference row happening. I think everything is going to be virtual, just like it was for the championship games. So I don't know what he's talking about. There won't be as many press conferences. There's going to be just as many press conferences, but you're going to have the luxury of being able to do it in your own confines, your own suite. I got to say, this is a huge, huge advantage for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, I mean, look, no one was more adamant about this never happening than I was this year. I had pretty much written off the Buccaneers before the season started, which is what I do every year. I find out where the Super Bowl is being played. If there's an NFL franchise in that city, I pretty much X them out of ever getting to the Super Bowl, let alone winning it. And now the Bucs basically just spit in my face yesterday with help from Green Bay. More on them later. Congratulations. Big deal ahead of them. I'm still trying to figure out who the pressure's on, though. Is it them or their opponent? Because they're playing at home, but the opponent's trying for the repeat. So who has more pressure?
I think both teams have a very interesting story when it comes to pressure. In regards to the Buccaneers, you're talking about Tom Brady and his legacy, trying to get a 7th Super Bowl ring, his first with a different team other than the New England Patriots. Tom Brady now appearing in his 10th Super Bowl, or is it more than that?
No, it's his 10th appearance.
10. So 50% of his career has ended in the Super Bowl. Just think of how many extra games he's played just by the fact that he's had to go to the Super Bowl every other year, essentially, in his career.
And, something that was brought up yesterday by the broadcast crew, this is the first time he's quarterback a wild card team. Every other time he's been in the playoff, his team has won the division.
Is that true?
Yeah.
The 2001 team wasn't a wild card team?
Mm-mm. They played in the wild card round, but they were still division winners.
That might be what it is. Yeah, my son was trying to pull off. Is this the first time in history that there's 2 wild card teams in the Super Bowl? I was like, the Chiefs are not a wild card team.
Right.
All right. All right. So there's the winners. Let's hear about the losers. How did the winners even get there? Well, the losers are blaming the refs, because who else are you supposed to?
Are they?
Aaron, I know you weren't on the field for it, but you saw how the game was being officiated and played all game. Just curious if you've seen the DPI on Kevin and if you had any thoughts on that.
I think it was a bad call. I think there were a few opportunities, for some plays down the field for us that weren't called. Just surprised that call in that situation was made. We get the ball back with probably 1:35 and a timeout with a chance to win the game, go to the Super Bowl. Didn't look like it was even catchable. So, yeah, I think it was a bad call.
Do you know what the official call was? He's specifically talking about Kevin King.
Yes. You can clearly see him pulling and tugging the jersey of Chris Godwin on the crossing route.
You're trying to undress him, for crying out loud.
Okay. And here's my problem. And now I will say he does have a legitimate gripe about this, because that is the only pass interference call that was made in that entire game.
So was pass interference the official call?
Pass interference was the official call. Not holding, pass interference.
No,
sorry. It was holding. Not pass interference.
It was holding. Okay. Because my thing has been that people have been talking about it as pass interference. That would be the wrong call.
Right.
But it's clearly defensive holding. So no matter what,
but
it's a 10-yard penalty and an automatic first down.
5 yards.
5-yard and an automatic first down.
Mm-hmm. So let me say this. This is the only legitimate gripe that Coach LaFleur has about this game, because there's a litany of things that he screwed up.
There's nothing legitimate here if you're going to argue about this call.
Well, look,
the call is correct.
The call was correct. Yes, it was defensive holding. I have a problem with the call being made at that point in the game, when the previous 58 minutes of the game, you let the defensive backs on both sides, both Tampa Bay and Green Bay, mug wide receivers up and down the field. You let everything go. There was no consistency. So if I'm Kevin King, they've not yet called this, because he could have been flagged for holding wide receivers at 3 other points during the game. The Tampa Bay cornerbacks could have been flagged at least 4 times for defensive holding. We're not going to talk about the multitude of pass interferences missed on both sides, some of them arguably offensive. But the referees kept the flags in their pockets for 58 minutes. And then at the 2-minute mark, you decide we're going to start calling the game tightly. You can't do that. You can't call the game one way for 58 minutes, and in the final 2 minutes decide we're going to call it a different way.
So I have 2 points. I have 2 points to this issue, and I hear your point, and I agree with your point. I think, one, we know refs are never consistent. Like that's been the argument about refereeing in sports from the beginning of time. If they were just consistent with their calls, then we'd have no issue. But they have to be consistent with it. And so the fact that what you're saying is 100% correct. They were very lenient with the whistle all during the game. It just happened that in this particular instance, it was an important point of the game. You're talking, as Aaron Rodgers just pointed out, a minute and a half left. They've got a chance to get the ball back and come back and win the game. Instead, they don't get the ball back and they end up losing the game. So I hear you on the consistency point. Where I'm not going to hear it, though, is the difference with this call is that you saw that he was tugging on the shirt with his left hand, lost his grip, and then re-gripped it with his right hand.
Yeah.
So he had the initial hold, let go, and then held again. So to me, it's like if you hadn't done the re-hold, you might have gotten away with it. Although, again, his shirt was basically 2 yards off of his body.
Yeah, and the flag came like a half a minute after the play was over.
Well, that's the Brady thing, right? So there's a lot of talk about the Brady rules, right? Because
yeah.
People are comparing this game to the way that officiating in the NBA was during Michael Jordan's time, where the refs would be lenient, and then all of a sudden they'd start making calls because it was Michael Jordan. They're making the same thing. Well, first of all, remember, Tom Brady's the one that deflated balls, apparently, quote unquote, allegedly.
Hey, but Tom Brady also gets the benefit of the doubt on pass interference. I mean, not pass interference, on roughing the passer. If you breathe on Tom Brady and he slips and falls after he throws the ball, a flag is being thrown.
Well, listen, that's the benefits of being the greatest of all time.
Oh, God.
You go out there and be the greatest of all time, and you'll get the refs on your side, too. But to my point, they should not be griping about the refs and the way that, in particular, this particular call. To me, this is a non-starter. You can see it's clear as night and day. He is undressing the wide receiver.
Then they should have made the calls earlier in the game as well.
They absolutely should have. Absolutely should have. I'm not excusing the fact that they didn't. I'm just saying, in this particular instance, it's night and day. There's no argument. You can't look at it and go, "Oh,
you can make an argument.
There's no foul." But you cannot. You can't make an argument.
You can make an argument.
It's a foul. Oh God.
Hey, I'm not saying it's not a foul, but my thing was, if it wasn't a foul 5 minutes into the game, or 20 minutes into the game, or 30 minutes in the game, why is it a foul with under 2 minutes in the game?
No, it was a foul in those other instances too. The refs made bad calls.
No, it wasn't, because the very
refs
first
made
penalty,
bad calls on those ones.
The very first penalty in this game was called with 5 minutes left in the third quarter. The first penalty in the game. 5 minutes left in the third quarter. That's when you throw the first flag.
Yeah,
really?
That's called bad officiating. That's what that's called.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on.
Now, final point in this game. There are 4 points I like to make as far as Packer fans why you lost this game. Number one, Kevin King. I don't know what he was doing on Evans' first touchdown catch, but he was nowhere in position to make a play on the ball. And I don't know, was he jumping just to make it look like he was trying? Because he one, jumped early, and two, wasn't even high enough to even tip the ball, let alone affect Mike Evans. Two, the touchdown at the end of the first half, which ultimately was the deciding factor in this game, where he let Miller run past him. I don't understand how you don't guard against that. The only thing they can do is throw deep. They have no timeouts. That's the only thing they can do. I don't have a problem with you being up on press, but you can't be looking backwards while running downfield. Ball's not going short. It's going to the end zone. All right, so he's my first issue. My second issue, the play calling. This is where it falls on Matt LaFleur. Brady throws back-to-back interceptions. You only run 6 plays. You never ran the ball.
Well, Aaron Jones was out at that point.
Yeah, but they were still effective with Dillon and Williams. I understand Jones was out of the game early, but Dillon and Williams were still effective, getting 4 to 5 yards a pop, and then occasionally Dillon was popping 8 yards a run. So you could have at least mitigated some of the pressure by running the football. The other point is the play calling on the Packers' last possession, again, where it falls on LaFleur. This is point number 3. Why are you calling 3 straight pass plays and no run play inside the goal? There's plenty of time left. It's 6 minutes left on the clock, right, when that whole sequence starts. You call pass plays. At no point do you run the ball. Why not? It's not like Tampa Bay was stoning you from running the ball. You could run on them. The fourth and final point, Aaron Rodgers in that sequence on third down had a wide open green grass to his right. There was no reason to force the ball to Devontae Adams double team. If he had ran to his right, he gets in at Best case scenario, he gets in. Worst case scenario, he gets drilled at the goal line and probably is like half an inch short. You go for it on 4th and inches.
Rodgers, so I didn't grab the soundbite, but Rodgers did say that he felt that Devin White was honed in on him and would have gotten him well before the goal line. I actually look at the cornerback. I don't know which one it was. Now, he was being blocked by the wide receiver. So there was still an opportunity that Rodgers possibly could have gotten by that cornerback, but I think the cornerback actually would have gotten him more so than Devin White. But we have been consistent, talking about consistency on this podcast, talking about Devin White being one of the fastest linebackers in the league. True. So Devin White was sort of in a jumble in that double team on Devontae Adams.
Yep.
So, does he get to Rodgers? Doesn't he? I don't know. To me, you get that behind the view, shot, and you can totally see exactly what you're talking about. I do think Rodgers, like you said, at the very least, Rodgers is getting down to the 1, and now it's fourth and short to get into the goal, to give yourself another shot instead of 4th and long to get to the goal line. I think that's definitely on Rodgers, and Rodgers got to take some of the blame.
Yeah, he does.
And he probably will.
But those
he's gutted. I listened to his entire press conference. He's gutted. He was not the Aaron Rodgers. He was definitely not the happy-go-lucky, laid-back Rodgers that I've listened to all season long. He was definitely, I'm kind of mad that we lost this game, and I think a lot of it probably is myself, but I'm not going to blame myself. There were a number of times he was asked about some of the play calling, especially the field goals that were kicked. And he just kept saying, "That's not my decision. That's not my decision."
I'm sorry. He's Aaron Rodgers. Help me out. How many 10-plus year veteran quarterbacks in the league with at least one Super Bowl ring have the authority to look at the sidelines and wave off the field goal unit?
He was asked about that one. He was asked about that too, and he said, "Well, at one point, there were 5 big men coming out on the field, and it would have taken a lot of gymnastics to get them back off." And yeah, Aaron Rodgers was definitely not in a good spot after the game. But and even mentioned that his future is murky. Is it really? I mean, listen, I will be extremely happy if Aaron Rodgers is available.
Yes, I know you would. But he's not going up there. You guys have no talent at wide receiver.
Oh, he'll come. He'll come, and then we'll bring – if he comes, then he knows that there'll be others that will come with him.
If you bring him, they will come?
Exactly. All right, let's move on to the other one of the other quarterbacks. This guy, the young kid, the young stud, the guy that no one can be compared to. Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Allen.
No. Patrick Mahomes, ready for the opportunity in Super Bowl 55.
This game would obviously be a huge game regardless, but what's sort of just the magnitude of playing in Tom Brady against a game like this?
Yeah, I mean, the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl. Being able to go up against one of the greatest, if not the greatest quarterback of all time in his 150th Super Bowl. I mean, it's going to be a great experience for me. I mean, to go out there and have a chance to repeat and get to do it against the best. I mean, it's something special, and I'm excited for the opportunity.
Tom Brady's 150th Super Bowl. It's only been 55, but Brady's been in 150 of them.
Oh man, look, this is a typical playoff game for the Kansas City Chiefs. If you watched them last year, everything played out.
A typical game, not even playoff game. This was the Chiefs' season sort of encapsulated in this game.
The first quarter, they were down 9-0. And the second quarter, they scored 3 touchdowns without giving up another point. I mean, remind you of anything that happened last year? Like every single playoff victory?
Well, there's a lot of games this year, too. Think about that Raiders game, right? The Raiders got up on the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs were like, hold my beer.
Right.
They went out there and they scored. It's similar situation. A lot. It's like similar situation. They just like, don't get us angry. You won't like us when we're angry.
Apparently going up 10-0 on them gets them angry.
Yeah. That all of a sudden it's like, oh, Oh, I'm sorry. We're supposed to be playing a football game. Okay.
Here we go. You know what the funny part? In the Slack channel, I don't know how much you were able to, observe from the Slack channel and watch the game, but as soon as the first quarter ends, it's 9-0. Chiefs have the ball. They're about to score or whatever at the beginning of the second quarter. And Neil comments in the Slack channel, the Chiefs have the Bills right where they want them. And then the deluge of scoring begins.
Yes. Well, that's the Chiefs. So, what about the Bills? What about the Bills? What does Sean McDermott say to Josh Allen after a game like that?
Knowing all the progress that he's made this year and how hard he puts these losses on himself, what do you say to Josh after a game like this when it's really raw?
Yeah, well, listen, I just told him and I told the team I love him. And, I think any teammate of Josh's, myself included, in that you love it when your quarterback is wired the way he's wired. He'll put it all on the line for this team and his teammates. And like all of us, I want to turn the film on right now and watch it, but it's probably not the best thing for me right now. So we got to give it some time. And at the end of the day, this is our measuring stick. If you lose an AFC Championship game, that's the team we got to beat. And so we've got to do everything with that in mind this offseason.
All right, that was a great line there, Sean McDermott. I think you went a long way of trying to say this.
It's my team. It's my quarterback. And if you guys do that, man, it's unfair. We lost as a team.
That's
Cut
my
that
quarterback.
Out. Look.
That's my quarterback.
Look. First off, the Bills had the season that I won't just say Bills Mafia, but a lot of people looking at them, considering the turnover in their division and the outlook on the conference as a whole, they had the season that everyone expected of them. They won a division. They were the number 2 seed in the conference. When they beat teams, they destroyed them basically. Very few close games. There were very few games that were in doubt of who the better team was when they walked off the field. Case in point, at the end of the year, that game against Pittsburgh on Sunday night. And granted, yes, Pittsburgh was reeling coming off their first L, and we know how they stumbled down the stretch. But the way they took it to Pittsburgh at the end of the season, if people didn't know at that point, hopefully watching these 2 playoff games, they know now that the Buffalo Bills are here to stay for years to come. Josh Allen took a huge leap this year as far as his play. He's definitely in the the league MVP discussion. I still don't think he wins it, but a case can definitely be made for him. The defense was outstanding all year, number of Pro Bowlers on that side of the ball. It's just you're going up against Andy Reid, and you coached under Andy Reid, and no matter what you came up with to try to slow Mahomes and the offense down, Andy Reid found some way between him and the enemy. They came up with the right play calls, the right plays, and coupled with the athletic abilities of Hill, Mahomes, the running backs, Kelsey, they were just outmatched defensively. They couldn't do anything. Like, whatever they tried worked once and never again. And they couldn't really find a scheme because they wanted to play zone to keep everybody in front of them. Well, fine. We're going to stretch your zone to the point to where it breaks and people will end up open. And that happened. They tried blitzing, which means you're playing man behind it. No one can really stick with their receivers respectively. They did stiffen up against the run in the second half. And that's probably the only good thing their defense did in that game. But this team is up, and I won't say it's up and coming. They're here. They're here to stay. Hopefully there's no step backwards for them next season. And they can repeat the similar success next year.
I mean, the Bills are in an interesting spot because you're right. I do believe that they are here and they have a strong team that they can build on moving forward. The problem that the Bills are going to face is the Dolphins are improving. The Patriots with Bill Belichick are going to be back. If you think the Patriots are done for, Bill Belichick has another thing coming for you.
No, the Patriots are just simmering right now.
But they will be back. So my point is Buffalo can't feel comfortable. Not that the Patriots ever felt comfortable, but trust me, I've told about it. We've been doing this podcast for 6 years. In the last 6 years, was there ever a time when I was like, yeah, I'm worried about that team in the AFC East. Oh, I'm worried about that team in the AFC. No. The Bills have to be worried about the Dolphins. They have to be worried about Bill Belichick and the Patriots. And honestly, if some of the rumors happen to come true, the New York Jets, and we'll hear from Robert Saleh coming up in a little bit here. New York Jets could be an up-and-coming team too. So the Bills aren't sitting back going, I don't have to worry about any team in the AFC East. The Bills,
no, they have to worry about their entire division. This is not a cakewalk.
And the thing about that is, if you're going to compete against the Kansas City Chiefs, because you look at them as sort of like your rival in the conference, you have to build the defense for that particular team, which, by the way, might be impossible. The amount of speed that is on that Chiefs team and the quarterback that they have, it might be impossible to build the defense that you need that will be able to still compete against all of those other bigger teams. Because Belichick likes to do the swerve, right? Yeah. So if you're going to go with a smaller, faster team, Belichick's going to go with a bigger, beat the snot out of you team. Like that's his thing. He is going to swerve when everybody else is swagging. So, I mean, that's the only thing that I'm concerned about. And trust me, as a Patriots fan, I'm not concerned about it with the Bills, but that would be the thing that would concern me if I was a Bills fan.
Unfortunately, the bad news coming out of the game for both teams appears that Cole Beasley was playing on a partially broken fibula. And at the end of the game, Chiefs left tackle Fisher is going to be out for the Super Bowl. He tore his Achilles.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good.
Yeah, and they showed the play in which he did it. And look, oftentimes I make fun of linemen when they fall down tripping over themselves. This is not going to be one of those times, but he basically tripped himself, and in doing so ruptured his own Achilles.
So listen, we've got a few weeks. We have 2 weeks before the Super Bowl begins. And so we'll be talking about the Super Bowl on this particular podcast, and we will have a prop bet episode of the Next Fan Up podcast coming to you probably in replacement of this particular podcast early next week. Those prop bets hopefully will be provided to us by Thrive Fantasy, where you can still play your favorite fantasy games using over and unders, just like we talk about. And if you use our promo code NEXTFANUP, we're going to double your initial deposit, starting at $20 up to $50. So anywhere in between, we'll double that deposit for you using our promo code NEXTFANUP on the Thrive Fantasy app. And like I said, stay tuned to the listening app that you're listening to this podcast right now, because we will have a prop bet podcast for you sometime early next week to help you place your bets at thrivefantasy.com. New head coaches. I have 1, 2, 3. I have 4 of them, 4 press conferences here. We already heard from Urban Meyer last week. That'd be 5. And we don't have one from Nick, and the Texans still have not hired anyone.
Probably Leslie Frazier.
I am going to save the best for last. And by the best, I mean the one that you've probably already heard of numerous times. We're going to save
Detroit Lions.
We're going to save him for last. So, but what you're going to see as I go through these head coaching candidates is they progressively get what I like to say better in terms of their sound bites. All right. So we'll start in Atlanta with Arthur Smith. Now, Arthur Smith is the former offense coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. I could have grabbed the bite where he says, I'm not Mike Vrabel. I don't think the world could handle another Mike Vrabel, which was actually a better soundbite than this one. But here's
factually correct.
Probably. Here's Arthur Smith, the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. You tell me how fired up you are to play for this guy after you hear this.
Coach, welcome to Atlanta. You've kind of alluded to this, I guess, in bits and pieces, but what kind of identity do you really want to build with this team here in Atlanta?
Yeah, well, certainly we want to be great up front. We want to have a fast team, and we certainly want to be physical on both sides of the ball. We want to have guys that are great teammates. We're going to hold our best players accountable, and that's what it is. We're going to drop the entitlement, not that to say it was here, but that'll be a big message in the locker room. And we want to be adaptable because the things change. I mean, where you're drafting from changes year to year, how adding pieces here, there in free agency, and you got to be flexible. So we want guys that are adaptable, and especially from week to week, how we got to go play the game to win.
This was the most boring press conference I've watched all year long, and I've watched a lot of
coaches aren't evaluated on the press conference.
Oh my God, this was terrible. This was so boring. He gave me literally nothing. Like I said, I probably should have grabbed the Mike Vrabel sound. That was better than that one. But man, this is not. It doesn't get me fired up for the team whatsoever. I had this problem as a kid in high school. He's the guy who's given a test, and it's a multiple choice test, and he aces it, right? 100%. But then at the end of the test, there's an essay question. How does this make you feel? And Arthur Smith just looks at that essay, and he writes down a bunch of facts that are all factually correct, but totally admits any of his feelings. That's Arthur Smith. And then he fails the test. I have a strong feeling Arthur Smith, excellent at the X's and O's, but he is not going to get his team fired up. I hope whoever he has as his assistants are fiery guys, because that man is not fiery, James.
Yeah, look, at the time that we're recording this, all the coaches who have been hired haven't finished rounding out their coaching staffs yet. They're still hiring people. The teams they left are still looking for their replacements as well. And again, if coaches were to be evaluated by press conferences that they give upon getting hired, then Rex Ryan would be the greatest coach that ever lived.
Oh, well, Dan Campbell's going to get an A+. I'm just going to let you know that right now. As I'm grading this, Arthur Smith right now has a D-.
It's the press conference. It's not even next season yet. We got about 8 months.
Yep. D- for Arthur Smith. All right. Los Angeles Chargers have a new head coach. It is the former defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams. I've made this joke plenty of times before. He didn't have to go very far. He literally just moved across to the other side of the stadium. His office went from one side of the stadium to the other side of the stadium. It's probably not exactly how it works, but it's a good visual. By the way, Brendan Staley was asked about that.
Hey, Coach, congratulations on the hire, first and foremost. You've kind of touched on this, but what really just solidified your decision to you didn't really have to move too far, but to be the Chargers head guy?
Number one was the people, Julian, the leadership, ownership. I think it really starts there. Just having our visions, align with one another. I think, my family means everything to me. And so I wanted, people that accepted my family and wanted our vision for how to lead a team, and I think it's one thing to get a head coaching job. All right. But it's another thing to get the right head coaching job, and that's something that we were certainly after.
So family is very important to Brendan Staley. Let's meet his family, James.
Now I want to talk about family. The Staley family, as John told you, what I told them in that interview, I meant. I am from the Bruce and Linda Staley coaching tree. And my parents are my heroes. My dad, Bruce, my mom, Linda, they've taught me everything that I know about what it is to be a man and a leader. As some of you know, my mom passed away from cancer in 2004. She's the most graceful, loving, strongest person I know. I started drinking coffee in the first grade and reading the sports page because I wanted to be like my dad. And I'm a son of a teacher and a coach, like John mentioned. And I grew up and saw the impact that you can have when you listen and invest in people. And it has never left me. I'd also like to thank my twin brother, Jason, his wife, Britt, our two nieces, Caroline and Claire, and my brother, Michael. You all are my best friends, and thank you for always pushing and believing me. To my wife, Amy, the most amazing person that I've ever met. Not a day goes by that I'm not in awe of the mother, teacher, daughter, and friend that you are. We are a team, and I love you so much. to my three boys, Colin, Grant, and Will. We got Grant, man, who he competed really hard this morning, guys, and he's taking a nap right now. But you'll get to meet them here in a second. Mommy and Daddy love you so much, and you make us so proud. It's so exciting to be Chargers.
Okay. First, so many things I want to get to. First, my first joke is can't wait to see what Amy does out on that field for the Los Angeles Chargers. Because family's so important to them, and they're all Chargers. Grant, who just competed really hard this previous morning before this press conference, taking a nap. I mean, I'm sure he's going to be great on that offensive line for the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm sure.
Hey, look, the Chargers and the Fast and the Furious, they have two things in common. It's all about family.
It's all about family. Dude, like a couple of the coaches, Arthur Smith, to go back to Arthur Smith and his D-minus, he listed off a bunch of his family members, but he also stopped because he said, I'm one of 10, which is crazy amount of siblings to have. But, and he just didn't want to get into naming coaches because there were so many of them. He didn't want to forget any of them. Dude, the fact that first I'm surprised here with Brandon because he has 3 sons. The dude doesn't look like he's a day over 14. So it'll go well with his 14-year-old bully at a quarterback, right? Spike.
But this is what happens when you drink coffee in the first grade, Pod.
Holy mackerel, the dude looks young. And the other thing was, as he's reading off his script, he paused and forgot that he didn't say "I love you" to his wife. let me play that for you again because it's just hilarious.
Oh,
it's just great.
We are a team, and I love you so much.
That pause, we are a team. Oh crap! I lost my space. Oh, and I love you.
Prepared statements never work. Having done a number of speaking engagements before the world went to crap, and still participating in a couple of speech classes every now and then, I can tell you that the written speech, not a good idea. An outline, sure. Bullet points, even better. But trying to read word for word what you wrote down as far as what you want to say, never a good idea.
So I've done a couple of presentations, a couple of speaking engagements, and what ends up happening is I do exactly what you just said. I write out an outline. I don't write everything out word for word, but sometimes I'll write my jokes into the presentation, so I remember to make the joke, and they never hit. They don't.
Yeah, that's why
it doesn't hit because it doesn't naturally flow off the tongue, or I'll be so focused on making sure I hit the joke and hit the punchline that I lose my spot. And then I have that same moment. So I'll hit my joke and then, oh, I love you.
Where was I?
Oh, I love you. That's right. That's the important part. The important part of the sentence. We're a team. Oh, and I love you. Anyway, so Brandon gets a C+ for his press conference. I thought, he's got that. He definitely has that Sean McVay vibe to him. I will say that, and it might have to do with the fact that he is young. I think he's only 39. He gives off that same sort of energy, that same sort of vibe when you see him and he talks. And I saw him on Good Morning Football. He was very personable with those guys. He was totally into their, to their thing that they do, because it's, they don't take themselves too seriously on Good Morning Football, which I like. And he got totally into the fun side of things too. So he'll play the game. He'll play along. He's going to be very good. But overall, C+. All right. That brings us to the New York Jets. Robert Saleh. Well, I'm just going to play it. Robert Saleh. Here we go.
Robert, my question for you is just the Jets have lost 57 games in the last 5 years, 35 in the last 3. There's been a losing culture in that building for a while. What is your plan for changing that?
We understand that with regards to the what's happened in the past. What we do challenge everybody is to really judge us on moving forward. When you look at the plan and what we have in place place with regards to scheme, offense, defense, special teams, and the mindset at which we're going to do it, there's an investment that's going to be made to one another. Coaches to players, players to coaches, organization to everybody. And there's an investment that's going to be reciprocated. But understanding that the all gas, no break mentality that we're going to have with how we wake up in the morning, how we rehab, how we prepare for meetings, how we take the practice field, how we're deliberate in everything we do will lead to the results that you'll see on Sunday. It will take time, but everything we do is going to be designed to win championships in the future. And so when we talk about all gas, no break, and that mentality, waking up in the morning, putting your foot to the pedal, and having that mindset, again, go to bed better than when you woke up. That's the mindset we're going to have. And again, we are very confident that's going to lead to championships.
Now, I will caution you, Robert, that all gas without Pepto-Bismol can lead to a very stinky locker room. Just going to say, you want to be cautious about going all gas all the time.
No. I was going to say that all gas, no break could wear your team out very fast.
It could end up rubbing off the wrong way, right? It could end up, it could end up backfiring on you. I will say that based on at least the small picture that I have of his coaching career, his message does not rub off the wrong way on his players. His players embrace him as their coach. They will go to battle for him. He is all about accountability, not just with the players, but with coaches as well, with himself as well. I think he's going to do all right with the New York Jets. The problem that I've had, that I've said before, is that it's the Jets. Like, I just don't know. There is not a long track record, a long history of successful coaches with the New York Jets. Just doesn't exist. And that's what I worry about here. I think he's gonna be a good coach, and I think he can do the right things. It's just a matter of how much meddling is going to happen from ownership. How much is Joe Douglas actually going to give him the weapons he needs to succeed as a coach in this league? And like you just mentioned, how much that message of all gas, no break ends up falling flat in year 3 or year 4.
Hopefully he makes it that long.
I think he'll make it at least 3 or 4 years. A lot's going to depend. I mentioned those rumors. Let's say that the Jets pull off that big deal with Houston and Deshaun Watson becomes the new quarterback in New York. Things could happen pretty quickly on the positive for the New York Jets if that were to happen. By the way, I'm really hoping that doesn't happen.
Yeah, but if that does happen, I think that takes some of the pressure off him to turn on how fast he has to turn things around, because now he has a little bit of leeway considering what the rest of that roster looks like. But more of the pressure now gets dumped on, like you said, Joe Douglas, the GM, because, all right, congratulations. You pulled off this blockbuster deal. You landed Deshaun Watson. How do you fix the rest of the roster?
Well, and that would be the thing. Joe Douglas is going to have to pull off a deal where he doesn't have to give up this draft and next year's draft so he can put some weapons around Deshaun Watson, because there is nothing on that New York Jets team. Now, we mentioned before, Richard Sherman is a huge fan of Robert Saleh. If Richard Sherman decides he wants to come and join Robert in New York, can he still play cornerback?
No.
These fans on this podcast don't think so. Would he be willing to change to safety? Can they keep Marcus May in town if that were the case? You know, these are going to be some of the things that we're going to be watching in New York. How do they improve the current talent that they have? How do they get talent that they don't currently have to come to New York? Robert Saleh will be a huge portion of that. Did I mention his grade? I'm giving him a B+. I like the fact that he came in with sort of a catchphrase for his philosophy. I don't know if I necessarily like the catchphrase, as I made a joke about it. But I like the fact that he came in, and I like the fact that he is a guy. You can hear it when he talks that you want to play for this man. Like, you're like, oh, there's just something about this guy that, yeah, I can go out there and I can go out and hit people in the mouth.
Yeah, look, all the defensive players in Frisco he left behind would pretty much run through a brick wall for him. That's how much they love him to a T. And I mean, everybody on the defensive side of the ball in Frisco absolutely loves this guy. So if he can have that same effect on the entire team here with the Jets, things shouldn't take that long to turn around. 2-3 years tops. But it'll be interesting how this roster shapes out between now and opening day. Because there are some young players on his roster who unfortunately are now available via free agency, whether restricted or unrestricted. And some of those guys need to get back. You mentioned Marcus May, probably the biggest name on their defense they have to retain if they want to turn this thing around defensively. And May is going to have a lot of suitors for him who will see that this is a talented kid on a very dismal team who just probably needs a change of scenery so that he can realize his full potential.
Yeah, I think Marcus May is definitely like, yeah, I'm out, dude. See you later. All right. Speaking of hitting people in the mouth, we go to Detroit. All right. You want to hear Singletary? I was going to save it, but I mean, it's pretty obvious. This is where we're heading. Detroit.
We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
And Dan Campbell, I'm sure you've already heard it. I'm going to give you full context of it. Before I even get to what Dan Campbell had to say, Sheila Ford Hamp, she is the principal owner and chairwoman of the Detroit Lions. She sort of tipped her hand here. She sort of said, this is what you're going to hear, I think. Let's listen to what she had to say first in introducing Dan Campbell as their new head coach.
Dan will be the first to tell you that winning is the only mission. But the way in which he plans to go about that is perhaps the most important. His football philosophy, founded on the principles of competition, identity, toughness, and operating with one heartbeat, is something I look forward to seeing come to light in Dan's time as our head coach.
Okay, maybe she didn't tip her hat as much as I don't know if she realized that Dan was going to be talking about cannibalism when she mentioned the one heartbeat of the team. Are you ready? Are you ready for Dan Campbell? Are you ready for this?
Let's go to it.
This place has been kicked. It's been battered. It's been bruised. And I can sit up here and give you coach speak all day long. I can give you, hey, we're going to win this many games. I can't. None of that matters, and you guys don't want to hear it anyway. You've had enough of that. So excuse my language. All right. Here's what I do know is that this team is going to take on the identity of this city. All right. And the city's been down, and it found a way to get up. All right. It's found a way to overcome adversity. All right. And so this team's going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth. All right. And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. All right. And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. All right. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap. And we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing. All right, that's going to be the mentality. All right, and we're going to learn that any loss that we take, we're going to make sure we feel the full pain of it and not go numb to it and learn from it and not to want to taste it again.
Well, I would hope you don't want to taste kneecaps again because you're going to take a lot. You're going to be eating a lot of kneecaps, I think, for a couple of years here, Dan.
Yeah, wow.
He is the new Mike Singletary.
We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
Or now it's
we're going to bite a kneecap off.
You either hit people in the mouth or you bite a kneecap off. Which one do you want?
Both? Can I have both?
Isn't Mike Singletary is being interviewed for a defense coordinator job? Is it in Detroit?
I do not know, but I did see his name come up for DC of one of these teams.
It'd be fantastic if we're hitting people in the mouth and then kicking them in the teeth and then biting their kneecaps off. I think it would be fantastic.
Absolutely.
Listen, Dan Campbell gets an A+ from me in regards to his press conference. I mean, there was another point in the press conference when he was asked about the makeup of the team, and he's like, well, listen, we're all going to get together. We're going to go into a room, and we're going to see who walks out of it. And then he's like, no, I'm just joking. We're going to get together and we're going to collaborate. We're going to decide who's going to be on this team and who's not going to be on this team. But I can tell you one thing. The people on this team are going to be physical. I mean, Dan Campbell is crazy. He's straight up nuts. But that was definitely one of the most entertaining press conferences I've watched all year long. A+.
Yeah, still getting laughs. But he was I believe he was like this as a player as well.
Listen, he was asked about, no, he wasn't asked about stories. It was Robert Saleh who was asked about stories. And Robert Saleh was like, that will have to wait for another time. He was like, I don't know about the stories, I can tell. So I thought that was interesting. Robert Saleh was very good. I will have to say, I think if I want to be completely unbiased, from a completely unbiased position, and from one of who gave me the most in terms of hope and energy and a true sense that this team can turn things around, it would be Robert Saleh. But I have to say, I don't mind my head coach being a character like Dan Campbell. As long as that character can actually make things happen, that's the thing. We talked about that all gas, no brake message can wear thin real quick. A character like Dan Campbell can wear thin real quick if your team isn't winning.
Yeah, the only knock against Saleh in the Jets is the division he's in.
Yeah,
that's the only knock I have against him. I have no doubt he'll be a good head coach. It's his division. We saw what the Bills are. We know what the Dolphins are trying to become, and we already know about Bob in New England. So,
wait, Bob isn't back in New England. Matt Patricia's back in New England, but not Bob. He went to Alabama.
Bill Belichick, I call him Bob.
Bob, that's Bill O'Brien. B-O-B.
No.
All right. Well, there you go. That was
my new Bob.
That was the final Soundoff edition. It's a bittersweet moment here, James. This was the final Soundoff edition for the 2020-2021 season. We will not be now there. I'm sure there will be press conferences. I'm sure there will be opportunities for us to play some sound, but we will not be doing a special episode like this until week 2 of next season.
Yeah.
You know, well, if there is a preseason, maybe we'll have some sound that we can do during the preseason. But as of right now, I mean, there's no combine. I don't know how we're doing all-star games with no combine, but we're doing some all-star games. And it looks like the NFL is going to move forward with the all virtual thing again, at least for the beginning part of this offseason. So, how this is going to play out for this upcoming season, at least these teams have experience with it, so they should be better. They should be better able to move forward with this. And I think I saw one of the teams that's been, eliminated for a while had to close their facilities due to COVID. But you're not going to hear much about that in the off season because there shouldn't really be that many people still at facilities, at least not these days.
Not the players, but facilities are still open for, again, front office people, your presidents, VPs, general managers, people that work under them. They still have to come in there, evaluate, prep for the draft, free agency windows, until, what is it, late March, early April? Yeah. You get your OTAs and your rookie camps going, and you're off again until mini camps in June, preseason in late July, or at least preseason practice in late July, preseason in August, which I highly doubt we have again this year.
So we'll be on top of it. We will have a show coming up on Thursday. In that show, I can tell you that there will be an interview that I conduct with Fansided's Matt Verderame. He's a guy that I've been reading at least for the last half of the season, a very statistical based writer. And I'm informed from our Kansas City Chiefs superfan, Nick, he actually started as a Chiefs blogger. So I'm sure he'll have a lot to say about the upcoming Super Bowl. I'll be talking to him. That'll be on our Thursday podcast. We'll talk about the Hall of Fame finalists. I got to figure out when I'm going to get a chance to do that. I don't know when that's going to happen, but we'll have our super fans vote on the 15 Hall of Fame finalists and choose our own class of 2021. As James has noted, probably only 2 or 3 of the guys that we end up choosing will actually end up being in the actual class of 2021. But I can tell you one right now that will nail easily, and that's Peyton Manning. There's no question, no doubt, Peyton Manning is getting himself a gold jacket this year.
Yeah, matter of fact, we can just do the list and just don't even put Peyton Manning on there. Like, that's too obvious. Okay, whatever the list of finalists, just take him out. We'll still do the vote anyway. We'll try to figure out how many we can get right aside from Peyton Manning, because anybody who doesn't put Peyton Manning on their list is a moron. Whether you like him or hate him, despise him, whatever else you thought about him during his career, he is definitely one of the all-time greats. He is a first-ballot Hall of Famer, deservedly so. And I misspoke earlier. I was robbed of the rematch of Super Bowl I again this year.
There you go.
Because Packers, 2 years in a row.
Listen,
the Chiefs keep doing it. The Chiefs keep doing it, but the Packers refuse to try to meet them. And I think these two teams play in the regular season next year.
I mean, I know I picked the Bills. I know I went with both underdogs last week during our preview podcast, but I did mention that the 2 teams that are in the Super Bowl are the 2 teams I expected to be in the Super Bowl during the preseason. Apparently, I knew more in the preseason than I knew last week.
Yeah, you and Nate Tradamus.
So,
Nate Burleson, that is, for Good Morning Football. He did the same thing, predicted Chiefs and Bucks at the beginning of the year. They played that bite on Sunday after the AFC Championship game. He was right. Here we are. It's the Chiefs and the Bucks.
I'll have a lot more. We'll have a lot more about the upcoming Super Bowl over the next few shows. Like I mentioned, we'll have a show on Thursday. That one will be a little bit of a mishmash of pretty much everything, a little Super Bowl, a little offseason, and an interview with Matt Verderami of Fansided. Then we will have our prop bet podcast that will be presented to us. That'll be given Detroit Lions Josh and Houston Texans James will be getting together and putting together the prop bet show. They will be, I don't know if there'll be other super fans involved. They have put out the invitation. But those 2 are heading up the charge on that particular episode. And then we'll be back again following Thursday to bring you our blow out the budget coverage of Super Bowl 55. Everything you're going to want to know about the upcoming Super Bowl. Super fan Nick for the Chiefs will be back. We are currently with a Tampa Bay Bucks super fan in hiatus. But we'll definitely have blow out the budget coverage of the Super Bowl in the next couple of weeks. And then we may take a week off after the Super Bowl, but
yeah, let's do that.
We'll be right back at it to cover everything that goes on during the off season with draft and whatever else happens during the off season. So make sure you are subscribed or following us wherever you get your podcasts, because that way you will never miss an episode. Because you never know. While I have this plan, there could be some things that pop up that will bring some changes to the schedule. And with that, I would like to add that my father-in-law passed away this past weekend, and he was a big sports fan and loved talking about sports, loved giving me crap about the Patriots, that's for sure. Loved giving me and my son crap about the Patriots. He was a Giants fan, and it was a non-COVID death, and we're all going to miss him. And the Super Bowl coverage this year on this podcast will be dedicated to him. Mr. Meck, hope things are better where you're at now. And all of our coverage is for you now, my friend. So with that, I leave you with Kofi Annan. There you have it.
Dear friends and colleagues, Saying goodbye is never easy. I believe we can all feel proud of what we have done together, and through it all, you have maintained your professionalism and commitment and remained true to the spirit of the Charter. That principle.
We go out, we hit people in the mouth.